This will be a link to this will be sent out Friday to everybody, even those that weren't able to attend. And this video, this training video will be available online for any of you that can't stay for the entire time, or something comes up, life happens, and you have to step away.
Outside for Creedmoor Elementary School.
One more time, please. Oh, that might not have been intended for me. I apologize. Again, the close of the RFA. The close of the RFA is November 13th at 4 p.m. Applications are to be submitted to A. Hoeksema. That information is available on the RFA, and as well as on the application. I'm going to share my screen with you, and we're going to go and we're going to take a look at all of the documents that are. Oh, it took me a little while to realize that it's transcribing everything I say on the right-hand side. I thought y'all were typing up a storm. And I was trying to keep up with that. I'll be sharing my screen, and we're going to view the RFA documents. That's the first thing that we'll do here. Let me go ahead and get that set up. I'll put this over here and dismiss this. There we go. You go back, and I'm going to here. All right. What you should be seeing is a file folder on the screen. I'd shake your heads yes if that's what you see. Okay. These are, like, for example, this is the application, excuse me, this is the contract that the TCQ has with the Capital Area Council of Governments that provides our funding. As you can see, we get a healthy chunk of money. As far as the COGS go, we get probably about the fourth largest amount of money. And there are special terms and conditions in this contract that carry over to these grants that you're going to want to peruse. I'm going to go ahead and just real quick look at some of these. The availability of funds. These funds are available through Health and Safety Code. And the TCEQ does retain the privilege of asking for the funds back. So it's only happened to us once, but one biennium we did get a request from TCEQ due to I think it was the disaster declaration for one of our hurricanes, and they asked for the funds back to be able to direct those to debris management. We were able to fund 1 year of projects, but we did have to cancel the second year. So just a heads up that it's good money. It's just simply not 100% guaranteed. There are a lot of references to where the money comes from, such as this one right here, statutory authority. It's out of General Revenue Dedicated Account Fund 5,000. Each time somebody goes to the landfill, they have to pay a tipping fee. Landfills have to pay the state of Texas a portion of that tipping fee. It's currently 96 cents per ton. That money is put into an account that is then distributed to the 24 regional planning commissions, also known as councils of government, or COGs, CAPCOG. And based on a formula that takes into account such things as the number of landfills in the region, level of poverty and population, number of municipalities, and number of counties. That money is given to us, and we're directed to maintain a regional solid waste management plan. I did change the page here, and just so you know, if you're interested, you can see some of the special terms and conditions. Yes, this is a reimbursement program. Reimbursement method right there. And TCQ does maintain the discretion to deny reimbursement for certain items. Example of the items that the TCEQ may not want to reimburse are porta potties for collection events, um, no water, no tacos, no pizzas, no fun stuff, really, is kind of what it boils down to. And so if you have one of the changes that they did implement this biennium, they are requiring a collection event to have event insurance. Okay. And they are willing to reimburse you for that event insurance. That's new this biennium. So please note that you do have to have, if you're going to have a scrap tire collection event, you will have to have the 1 day collection event insurance just to cover. And I think I don't know what it's going to vary across the region, but I've heard as much as $580 for 1 day's insurance to cover the equipment, to cover the staff, the volunteers, and just in case, it's I know that I have paid a lot of insurance in my lifetime, and I very seldom get to collect on it. Let's hope nobody has to collect on the insurance. That's a terrible thing, having to deal with them. Okay. Um, End of biennium, expensive funds. Sometimes CAPCOG will have monies remaining at the end of the biennium, and we struggle with trying to spend that money. TCQ requires that we spend 100% of these dollars. So this last biennium, we went back out for a call for projects, equipment only, and we were able to fund 5 additional projects. We also were able to help cover the overages for collection events. If you have a timeline, your gates are going to be open from 8 a.m. till noon. And about 10 o'clock, you realize that all of your bins are almost full. You start thinking about having to close the gates early. Just keep in mind that if you close the gates early, that waste that was piled up on the back of a vehicle might not find its way back to where it originally came from. You might be creating a legal dumping issue if you send customers away. Not saying that's what'll happen, but sometimes that does. Um, if you do have to turn people away, you might want to have a county constable, county sheriff present to make sure that the people that are being turned away do make it home with the goods that they brought to dispose of. Um, what I'm hinting at is it's not ever good to close the gates early sometimes. It's almost better to pile the waste on the ground and ask your vendor for an additional dumpster or roll off and handle it that way. If you're doing scrap tires, please keep in mind that the TCEQ rules are 500 tires. If there's any more than 500, there's 501 tires on the ground at any given time. That is in violation of the TCQ rules and regulations. If you find yourself in a situation where you filled up 2 trailer beds of tires and the tires are still coming in, I encourage you to accept those tires and let your vendor know that you have additional tires on the ground. If you have over 500 tires on the ground, then you're encouraged to pick up the phone and call the TCQ regional office and let them know that you have those tires. They will say, okay, thank you very much for letting us know. When do you think you're going to be able to get them picked up and taken care of? And they will work with you. There will be no enforcement. However, if Tuesday after the event goes by and you haven't notified TCQ and one of their regional investigators just happens to drive by your site and see 500 plus tires stacked on the ground, well, you might be going to enforcement. Okay. There's no requirement to notify TCEQ prior to a community collection event for household waste or for tires. There is a requirement if you're doing hazardous waste, and that's pertaining to Title 30 Texas Administrative Code, Chapter 335. You have to notify the TCEQ 30 to 45 days in advance of a collection event. They have specific forms to be completed and submitted. All you have to do is ask me for those forms. TCEQ website is pretty maneuverable and understandable. But if you have trouble with it, let me know, and I can send you copies of those forms. If you're doing what's called a BOPATE, that is batteries, oil, paint, antifreeze, tires, electronics, you are not required to notify the TCEQ. Those are deemed hazardous. Some of those items are deemed hazardous, but they're outside of the Code of Federal Regulations and the Texas Administrative Code. You can host an event without being required to notify the TCEQ. To stay back online, I'm going to go back to the scope of work here, and it sets limits on budgets. It talks about the specific budget categories, same as our request for applications and our application document. The budget categories are your standard budget categories: personnel, salary, travel, supplies, equipment, contractual, other expenses, indirect cost rate, and then other expense records is what they talk about. If you're not familiar with indirect cost rates, you need to contact me after this or at some time, and we'll sit down and discuss it. Indirect cost rates are what a local government may charge to cover the costs that are distributed across many different programs or the administration of your local government. It's difficult to identify which budget category, so you use an indirect cost rate. Your indirect cost rate is approved by your funding agency, whoever your funding agency, largest funding agency traditionally, that you have to submit a cost allocation plan to. And the cost allocation plan identifies such things as depreciation use, formulas that your local government may use to calculate depreciation on equipment, and or the rate, the indirect cost rate, the fringe and indirect cost rate that you may charge to help cover the administration of your local government in enacting a program that is funded by a grant. Let's see. There are a lot of certifications in our application, and we're going to go over those. TCEQ does require these local effort certification. TCEQ asks us, CAPCOG, to track your in-kind and your match contributions. It's very important that you let us know what these are. This year, this biennium, CAPCOG will be having a required match of 10%. And we're going to ask you at the end of the project to tell us how much in-kind contribution you had for that project, as well as how much cash outlay you had to put out. For example, Caldwell County has a collection event. They utilize volunteers from a local church organization, and the volunteers, you can calculate the cost of the volunteers at $20 to $24 a head. What you do is you go online and you can look for any of the scales that are utilized or that are available to calculate volunteer labor hours. You also calculate the cost of operating the machinery on an hourly rate and the cost of that machinery itself, not just the person sitting in it driving it, but also the cost of the gas and the cost of the use of the machinery. Those are deemed in-kind contributions. If you purchase a contract for a porta potty and you purchase breakfast tacos and you purchase pizza, those are deemed cash match, but they are ineligible cash match items because they are on the list of non-allowable expenses. So we wouldn't be able to, we'd be able to include it in the report to the TCEQ, but we wouldn't be able to reimburse you for those things. Let's see. Auditing. TCEQ does have a clause in here on auditing, and all of you do need to understand that if you realize a grant from CAPCOG, these are state monies, not federal monies. These are state monies. And that auditing, you are subject to an audit. Not that you will be audited, but you are subject to an audit. If you purchase a piece of equipment, I will have to come by and empirically verify that piece of equipment, take a picture of it. I'll have to slap a CAPCOG control tag on it someplace where it'll stick there for its entire life. And we'll calculate depreciation at 6.25% per year until that equipment is 100% depreciated, which is about a 12.5-year life expectancy for something such as a baler, a chipper, chipper shredder, aluminum can crusher, things of that nature. TCEQ does ask that you provide a scope of work, and our application is set up to help lead you to that. That's the end of the special terms and conditions. And then the application or our grant contract gets into eligibility, and it defines that cities, counties, public schools, and school districts. Note, this does not include universities or post-secondary educational institutions. But schools and school districts public schools and school districts are eligible. General law districts, such as the Lower Colorado River Authority, a municipal utility district, a special use district. These are all eligible entities. And then, of course, the COGs are eligible to apply. CAPCOG has what we call a COG managed project. We don't fund it, but I bill my time toward facilitating a regional environmental task force in the region. And we have quarterly meetings. We do a basic environmental law training as well as an intermediate environmental law training for environmental law enforcement. And we have a toll-free number for reporting illegal dumping, 1-877-NO-DUMPS. And that is all a part of our COG managed project. On occasion, we will submit an application with the applications that you're going to be submitting for our Solid Waste Advisory Committee's consideration if we wish to fund our Regional Environmental Task Force some money. At the end of the biennium, consideration for the Regional Environmental Task Force is also considered or provided. The previous biennium, we were able to purchase right at 70 of the Spy Point solar cellular game cameras and distribute those throughout the region to help with environmental enforcement. Those that were on the line early heard Officer Penley allude to that. They got the lion's share of the cameras, and I'm very glad to hear they're utilizing them. And I know that they're tracking and reporting the use because I've gotten one of the reports already, and it's going to make our numbers look real good this year. We do ask everybody track and report the results of their program, and we take those numbers and we include them in our legislative report at the end of the biennium. Each biennium, we provide a report to the Texas State Legislature that informs them on the use of these dollars and how much in kind we were able to leverage, how much matching funds we were able to leverage. And we like to be able to see that $1 of these grant funds leveraged, for example, $8 of local government commitment in volunteer work and everything. So don't leave anything off in consideration when you're calculating in-kind and match monies. If you have questions on that, don't hesitate to contact me. So these things, the reporting is required. Results report and follow-up results report. TCEQ asked that we track each program for 2 years. And a collection event is a one-time event. You report your numbers and you're done. If you're a recycling facility or you're funding equipment for your recycling facility, we ask that you track for 2 years and we utilize those numbers. And then let's see. It gives dates that these things are due. These are all things that I have to pass through and make sure are in your interlocal agreements. And we have the definition of equipment. TCEQ's definition is different than the Uniform Grant Management, or excuse me, the Texas Grant Management Standards. We've moved from the Uniform Grant Management Standards now to the Grant Management State of Texas Grant Management Standards. There's not a lot of difference, but when you historically referred to what we called UGMs, UGMs is gone, and now we have to look to the Texas Grant Management Standards. So if you don't have a copy of the Texas Grant Management Standards, I think effective 2021, you'll need to download a copy if you're a grant manager, just so that you'll know, you'll have reference to it. Very seldom will you have to refer back to this contract with the TCEQ or the Texas Grant Management Standards, but do know and realize that the definition of equipment is not $5,000 to the TCEQ. It's $1,000. And they ask that you track and report what are deemed controlled assets in the Texas Grant Management Standards, which TCEQ sees as equipment. And let's see. Of course, you are obligated to submit the reports. Failure to submit a report may result in your reimbursement not being granted, or you being red flagged and identified as not eligible for future funding for a period of time. This has not happened to CAPCOG. CAPCOG has not ever had to do this to any of our grant recipients, but it has happened to other COGs, such as another one in just north and east of us here. They were put on a reimbursement only basis and had to submit receipts for everything they expended, and their pass-through grant recipients were red flagged. They were told that they could not submit for additional grants for a 2 to 3 year period of time through the COG. So it's important that we at least know the terms and conditions that we're proposing to work under. So I think I've killed the contract. Let me go ahead and get out of that and get into something a little bit more productive for y'all. We do have, if you've never seen our regional solid waste management plan, CAPCOG has one. This is a 22-year plan. this just a moment to come up. You can tell us which goals and objectives your project is going to help us meet by looking in our regional solid waste management plan and identifying what our goals and objectives are in the plan. For example, the number one goal, and these are based on priority. We went through a 4-year revision period. We surveyed all the local governments in our area, and we had a subcommittee of our solid waste advisory committee sit and evaluate all the results of all the survey data, and we put together a new list of priorities. Number one priority in our region now is to promote community cleanup events to provide citizens with an alternative to illegal dumping. So if you are pursuing one of these higher goals, one of the 1 through 3, you're going to realize that that's a higher priority for CAPCOG. So we direct the SWAC to give you greater consideration, which in turn we hope means more points. Second on our list is to encourage household hazardous waste collection and diversion programs. Third on our list, to continue and enhance current illegal dumping enforcement programs. So the top 3 priorities cover pretty much what I heard everyone relate to me that they were considering. However, we have 15 goals and objectives. The priority 2 level would be alternatives to dealing with the disposal of special wastes. That's the scrap tires. Okay. Promote education on integrated solid waste management. That's a big thing, outreach and education. Letting people know if your community has gone single stream or is attempting to go single stream, letting the citizens know what's allowable in that single stream is very important. No baby diapers, no water hoses, things of that nature. That's those. No wire coat hangers, no pizza boxes for one of our MRFs, but pizza boxes are okay. Soiled pizza boxes are okay for one of our other MRFs. So it does depend upon who your service provider is, and you want to co-align your outreach and education efforts with whoever your local vendor is, and ensure that you're letting your citizens know what's acceptable in the recycling container and what actually goes into the trash containers. So again, the Regional Solid Waste Management Plan is where you look to identify which priority you're going to be helping CAPCOG meet. And there are 15 of them. I'm going to let you go and you can read those. If you wish to go beyond, there's 2 volumes of our Regional Solid Waste Management Plan. The volume 1, which is an executive summary, it identifies the top 15. And then there's the volume 2, which is where we get into our data. And if you wish to know CAPCOG's plan for waste minimization, reuse, and recycling, it's listed here. If you go further back into this document, you're going to start getting into the demographic information. You're going to be able to see what CAPCOG's current recycling rate is, what our growth rate is, and what our projected growth rates are and projected diversion rates might be. We address, to the best of our ability, commercial waste generation, municipal waste generation, and diversion, and industrial waste generation. As you can see, we're currently at a 1.89 increase. By 2027, we're expecting that to increase up to 2.39%. Now, this is all boring y'all to death, I know, but I wanted to get back into some of this other data just so you know it's here. And the number of landfills in our region, the amount of waste that we do currently bury or dispose or divert, what our 5-year plan is, our 10-year plan, 15 and 20-year plan. This was approved by the TCEQ in 2022. So it is a new plan and we will not be upgrading it anytime soon. It took a heck of a long time for that. But if you're wanting to know, for example, somebody calls you on the phone and they said, we've got several dead horses. What do we do with them? You can go to the plan and you can do a control F and you can put dead animals and it will basically take you to everywhere in this document. It refers to dead animals. And I believe it'll tell you even which landfills might accept them. You can also pick up the phone and call me and I'll help you find a way to recycle those or divert them if at all possible. So that's our regional solid waste management plan. You all received the announcement or you wouldn't be on here about our requests for applications. We're going to open that just for a moment. There you go. The RFA document and all completed application form and associated documents can be found at, and you have to click or tap on the link and it will take you to that location. Register to attend the workshop. Thank you for those of you that did that, and my contact information. Okay. If you're wondering how we're going to rank, score, and determine who gets funded and who does not, that is going to be up to our Solid Waste Advisory Committee. So we've posted the bylaws here for our Solid Waste Advisory Committee. And you can see what their charge is to basically assist CAPCOG staff in evaluating the goals, objectives in our regional plan, to score and rank applications and make recommendations to our executive committee. Our executive committee maintains authorization and final approval of all of the solid waste grants that are recommended by the Solid Waste Advisory Committee, what we call a SWAC. Our executive committee then makes recommendations to the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, who in turn make the final funding decisions. Once you've been selected by CAPCOG's SWAC, you'll be notified that your recommendation is moving forward. And once we have received final approval from the TCEQ is when you will get notified of final approval. If you look at the SWAC bylaws, you can see representation here. I'm just making it just a little bit larger of our SWAC based upon population. Hayes County, Travis County, City of Austin, and Williamson County all have 2 representatives. Other counties have 1. The City of Austin is the only municipality with a seat on the Solid Waste Advisory Committee. However, we have at-large representation as well. We have at-large representation from 1 individual with household hazardous waste expertise. We have 4 private operators. Our private operators are the major vendors in the region. We currently have 1 vacancy, and we're working to fill that vacancy. We do have Texas Disposal Systems, Waste Management, Smith Recycling, currently as our private operators. And then we have a citizens group that is currently held by a member of Keep Texas Beautiful. We have an educational group that is currently held by a member of the Austin Independent School District. We have TCEQ representatives, one from the field office and one from our headquarters. Qualifications, terms, attendance, and then it gets down into meetings, quorum and action, personnel contact. There you go. It's helpful information. You need to let if you have a representative on the SWAC, you need to let them know that you're submitting this grant application because they may be able to, then they'll at least know that, for example, Hays County has a grant application coming through, and the two representatives know in that instance, it's very important that they be at that SWAC meeting to help score and rank the applications. And yes, there is a conflict of interest clause where certain people, if they're related to by first degree of affinity, second degree of consanguinity, those are fun words, go look them up. If they're related to you by marriage or by birth, then you have to abstain. You can't vote on their project. If the Hays County representative has a Hays County application in front of them, they have to abstain, but they can still vote on the other applications involved. If your representative on the SWAC is an elected official, we allow them to vote to represent the citizens of their elected geographic area, such as a county commissioner, or a county judge. So it does help to ensure that you have your elected officials on the advisory committee if at all possible. The TCEQ administrative procedures. These administrative procedures pass through to all of the interlocal agreements that we have or that we will be entering into with local governments. You can look to these administrative procedures, and it is extensive, but you can look to this for examples of projects that you might want to request funding for. And I'm just going to go to just a couple just to kind of give you a general idea. This document talks about requirements of the CAPCOG application, the schedule of deliverables for CAPCOG, the schedule of deliverables for any pass-through grant recipients, implementation and COG managed project instructions, summary forms, the semi-annual report, the equipment, if you're purchasing equipment, and then the follow-up results report. That is required of you as well. Financial administration, financial status report, instructions and forms. Level of effort certifications. We do ask that you self-certify in the application a good deal, and we'll go over those. We'll take a short break here in just a couple minutes. And when we come back, we'll be going over the application document, and I'll do that a little bit more extensively than I am just introducing the application documents that do pertain to your interlocal agreement, should you be fortunate to realize funding. Local solid waste management plans, technical studies. If your community is considering a new solid waste contract for a vendor, then it might be a good idea, since those solid waste contracts tend to be 10, 15, 20, some even 25 years. then it's recommended you do a study before you enter that contract to identify the needs, wants, desires, best practices for your community that you may want to include in your contract with a potential vendor. It will also help you identify which vendors can provide all of these services and where you want to go in the future. What's your current recycling rate? What do you want to get to in the future? Do you ever want to entertain zero waste? Zero waste is an outstanding concept, and it's a core component of a sustainability program, but it's not necessarily reachable. I don't know of any community in the United States that has actually reached the zero waste goal. Some of our manufacturers have, and then through trade-offs like carbon programs, carbon trading programs, leads enforcement or leads programs, communities are able to negotiate with the government that they're at zero waste when they're really actually not, but they're buying into some of that. Regional solid waste management plans or local solid waste management plans are an eligible funding category. And then CAPCOG maintains a closed and abandoned landfill inventory, and the guidelines on our maintaining that closed and abandoned landfill inventory is included in these administrative procedures. But just we'll go real quick. Recommended application documents, recommended schedule of deliverables. But when you get in here, let me do this. You just Control F, and we'll do, if you're going to do an equipment, we'll do equipment. And this will take you to everywhere that equipment is mentioned in the document. Equipment is listed under local enforcement quite a few times. It's listed under litter and illegal dumping cleanup collection events. If you're wanting to host a litter illegal dumping collection event, you should read this portion of the administrative procedures before you submit your application. It will give you a better understanding of what's expected of you, and it will help you with the light bulb with your creative writing when it comes to telling us about your project. There is an equipment guide and log, meaning that you must track use of the equipment. Any equipment purchased through the program belongs to both you and the state of Texas until it depreciates under the use and depreciation calculations, so on, so forth. We'll get out of that. If you wanted to do HHW, here is reference to what's allowable. We've got household hazardous waste programs. And it gets into the application document. Page 22, it tells you funds can be used for projects that provide means for recycling or proper disposal of household hazardous waste. On the next page, it tells you exactly the requirements for an HHW. All events must meet these requirements. Title 30, Texas Administrative Code, Chapter 335, Subchapter N. The 45-day notice is applicable. The document that you must complete is referenced here. You can download that from the TCEQ website, or you can ask me, and I'll provide it to you. At the end of the fiscal year, or by April 1st, you must provide TCEQ with the numbers from the results of your collection event. If you fail to do this, you have just made yourself ineligible for reimbursement through CAPCOG. We will not reimburse you if we find out that you did not follow the TCEQs requirements for HHW collection events. No ifs, ands, or buts. CAPCOG will not be allowed to reimburse you. And the TCQ will probably come knock on your door and talk to you about enforcement. That's the most onerous of the programs that we fund, the HHW. Don't let that scare you away from an HHW event. It's just do your homework and know what's pending and down the road for you. If this scares you so much that you think about not having one, then you might consider having a BOPATE. And we described those earlier as batteries, oil, paint, antifreeze, tires, electronics, those hard to dispose of items. And some of those items, such as the batteries, the oil, and the antifreeze, people will actually pay you to collect that for them. You just need to shop for the right vendor, okay? If you're interested in the technical studies, you can read about what's allowable and what's not allowable in the administrative procedures for technical studies. The list goes on and on. The reporting requirements, the equipment log requirements are in here. Results report and follow up. This is the results report and follow-up report is the report that we require every grant recipient to provide to us. Financial administration, here's where you can have a link to, if you don't have a copy of the Texas Grant Management Standards, well, right here's your opportunity to go to our TCQ administrative procedures, click on the link and download a copy. Save it to your desktop, save it to someplace that you know you can reach and reference for future reference and guidance. And it'll help you remain compliant and with the rules and regulations in the state of Texas. Now, of course, you have your own purchasing policies and procedures, which we will ask for a copy of. If you don't have your own purchasing policies and procedures, you might consider adopting some, but you will be forced to utilize the Texas Grant Management Standards otherwise. And here it talks about your budget categories again. Some of this stuff, content guide for technical studies, it's all contained here in the administrative procedures, regional or local solid waste management plans, spending plan, the COG requirements and pass-through guidelines. These are the requirements that will be imposed upon you as well. Page 46. The requirements of our Solid Waste Advisory Committee. Yeah, I can tell by the look on your faces, we need to take a short break. All right, what we're going to do now is when we come back, we're going to hit on the RFA. We're going to hit on the application document. By 11:30, we will be on the RFA. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say it's 11 o'clock right now. Let's take a 10-minute break. And I will meet you back here at 11:10. Okay? You on there, Charles? Okay. Okay, I talk a lot. Transcribing and. I've researched lifestyle, RFA, and the application. Contract. Has to. Oh, okay, biggest report. Not just that, based on land, but when I discussed the logistics of like the automatic, so actually figure out that way that it can, that next time. Okay, but anyway. Probably not gonna sign in right now. I'll probably watch the report. Yeah, I mean, okay. Hey, you know, yes, it's going to happen. Hey, Mike, I just noticing on your wall that you've got a collection of challenge coins.
Yes, sir. Tons of them.
You got room for one more?
Of course.
We have a regional environmental task force challenge coin now.
Oh man, that would be super cool. We're actually working on one for our office right now. We getting a new one.
Well, next time you're down CAPCOG Way, you stop by and ask for me, and I'll get you some challenge coins.
Man, that would be awesome.
I'd love to
Appreciate
do it for you.
Y'all think you're gonna have pretty good buy-in this year with getting rid of all your money, or?
Um, I'm kind of on the fence about it.
Really?
I'm worried that I'm not going to get but one application from everybody, and we usually have at least 10 applications.
Yeah.
But with the $30,000 limit, um, I'm concerned that we're not going to get enough applications to cover the full amount of money available.
Yeah,
Uh,
we were we never count it till we see it or whatever, but we were really hoping to be able to do that truck deal, and then I saw that limit and I was like, oh man. So we just shift
yeah,
focus on it, and we'll do some of the other stuff. We've been wanting to do the tire cleanups for a while because we get inundated with 18-wheeler tires out here.
yes, you do, and they average cost to dispose of an 18-wheeler tire is somewhere between $25 and $30.
Yeah.
So it's
And they never do just one of them. it's 10 to 15 of them at a time.
yes, sir. Yes, sir, it is. And then when you do your scrap tire events, also you're going to have some of your used tire vendors show up with all their tires,
Yep.
and you're not supposed to accept those from them.
Yeah.
But if you don't, no telling what's going to happen to them.
Yeah. And I hate to say it this way, but it may be a good opportunity to create a database of suspects sometimes. I'm
Well,
sure we'll see some people we've dealt with before because
yeah, and having the standby officer to watch the facility after it closes for about an hour or two to
yeah,
see who comes by late and where they go is very important too, because that waste is not going to make it back to that person's property.
no,
Who was it? Officer Jet out in Burnett County
mhm,
uh, followed one guy down the road, and sure enough, he didn't go but maybe 5 miles down the road, and he was down a out of sight, out of mind cul-de-sac, and he was offloading.
well, we get probably over 50% of our dumps are within half a mile of the landfill out here. And
Wow.
luckily, the landfill's got a good camera, so we get a report of all the cars that U-turn that leave
Yes.
after they pay the price, and so that's a good suspect list usually. And we compare that with our cameras. We've got some good cameras now that really can read the license plates at night and everything, and so we've had pretty good success with it.
Awesome. All right. All right. Well, let's see what we got. I had a comment or two. Let me read this here real quick, and we'll get started. Okay. Yeah. Uh, yeah. Yeah, Lakeway, you got to have space available for a BOPATE, a large enough area. High school is common. Burnett County uses their high school property, and they stage them, and they have various drop-off locations. And somebody that brings a little bit of everything can make their way through there in probably about 10-15 minutes. They have a lot of volunteers. They have cones out to direct, and then lots of volunteers, plus all the elected officials and everything. Lago Vista, when they did it, when they did a HHW or BOPATE recently, a couple of years back, they had to have several staging areas. They had to have a staging area for green waste that they included, that was separate from where they have the batteries and the oil and the televisions or the electronics, and They had big old stacks. They tried to put them all on pallets. But they had overflow. They had a lot of overflow. And the paint they took to their work yard, and they placed their paint open containers to allow the paint to dry, and disposed of it in a dumpster after that. So they didn't really recycle the paint, but they saved costs not having to pay for the paint to be collected by an HHW vendor. Okay, all right. Lightning has been detected in your area. Yeah, yeah, we're getting it here. Caldwell Hayes, all right. Well, we're indoors, thank goodness. And we'll say a silent prayer for those that are out in the mess in hopes that we don't actually get any of those nasty tornadoes. Um, a short report just a moment ago, it was hailing at my house. So I'll have to climb up on my roof and make sure I don't have any hail damage when I get home. Okay, as stated, we're now going to look at, these are all the documents right here that are available on our website. If you follow the RFA link, we're going to look at the RFA real quick. All right, here we go. Here's a link. All these documents are available here. I highly recommend you just go online and download them all while they're posted. Put them in a CAPCOG folder, CAPCOG Solid Waste type folder, and you'll have access to them throughout the timeline. CAPCOG's region is identified, our 10-county region. The timeline for these grants applications is a relatively short timeline. If you get stuck and you're having brain cramps or something, you're welcome to contact me to ask for technical support. I will not be in the office the week of November 13th. So do not wait till the last minute to contact me. I won't be here. I'm sorry. RFA was released on the 13th of the month. Today, we're having our workshop. This will be available for viewing for any of you that aren't able to sit through the entire event, or that have hunger pangs about 11:30 and have to get out of here and go get you some lunch or something. The deadline for questions, 11/6 at 4 p.m. I can't guarantee you a response or a quick review of your grant application if you wait until after 11/6 to contact me. It's better that you get started on these grant applications as soon as possible. If you get stuck, contact me. The timeline is better if you start now rather than hold off. We do have a question and answers document that I will be giving to our IT person and ask him to post on the website for the RFA probably this Friday, day after tomorrow. Applications are due 4 p.m. 11/13/2023. You'll see at the very bottom of the document, I'm just going to come back up here in a moment. Applications are to be submitted to, don't submit them to me, submit them to Mr. Andrew Hoeksema, Hoeksema at capcog.org. And I'm going to have to go all the way to the bottom of the document for you to, this is the RFA. It's on the bottom of the application document. I apologize. Get back up here to this. Governing body resolutions. We give you a little extra time to get authorization because we do realize sometimes it's difficult to get on commissioner's agenda or city council agenda. But you must have a resolution signed by your governing body giving you authorization to apply for these grant applications. Dennis, I anticipate I'll see your grant application prior to October 31st. Because you're not going to want to be working on that on your last day. Dennis is retiring, everyone. He's one of the fortunate ones of the baby boomers that gets to retire. By the time I get there, it may not be there for me, Dennis. I'll be wanting to move out on your property and live in the back 40 or something if you'll let me.
Sure.
Sure. I don't think so, but we'll see. And then the Solid Waste Advisory Committee scoring meeting. If you submit an application, you need to be prepared to be at CAPCOG on December 8th, 2023. We will send out the schedule of presentations. You will be given 10 minutes to present before the Solid Waste Advisory Committee. There will be followed by 5 minutes of questions by the SWAC to you. It's in your best interest to send somebody that has authorization to negotiate with the Solid Waste Advisory Committee, and that you submit a scalable project. The Solid Waste Advisory Committee will be asking you what is the minimum dollar amount that you can accept. They will be asking you, can you reduce your ask by X number of dollars, so that they can distribute the monies across as many different applications as possible. So either get authorization for that prior to the 12/8, or have somebody with you that can answer to the need to possibly amend your grant request. The recommendations of the Solid Waste Advisory Committee will be heard by the CAPCOG Executive Committee on December 20th. You are not obligated to be here on December 20th. You can be if you want to. You can see the dog and pony show that is CAPCOG and CAPCOG's Advisory Committee, how we operate. The recommendation will then go to, it'll be heard at the January 10th Executive Committee meeting. I apologize. The documents will be released to them early so that they can see who's applied for what and what the recommendation of the Solid Waste Advisory Committee is. The recommendation will leave the Executive Committee and then go to the TCEQ. The TCEQ does their best to turn around the grant recommendations or requests within 30 days, which will allow us a short time frame to get your interlocal agreements out to you, get them signed and returned, so that if you do realize an FY 2024 funding, you can start March 1st, 2024. Very important that we tried to move up the date for our grant contracts because March is a very popular month for collection events. Everybody's doing spring cleaning. April is Earth Day, and Earth Day is an excellent time to have a collection event. And then the end date for the contracts in 2024, if you're moved to a 2025 date, your start date will be September 1, 2024, and it will end April 30th, 2022. Okay. We've looked at the administrative procedures. We've looked at the bylaws. We've looked at the regional plan. Here's a link again to those documents. We're looking at the RFA now. Our regional solid waste management plan goals and objectives are listed right here in order of priority. Here's a link to our regional solid waste management plan. Eligible entities. We do not have any ineligible entities online. If you're curious about eligibility for another entity or even for yourself in your application, pick up the phone, call me, please. All right. Eligible projects. These are the eligible project categories. Local enforcement, litter illegal dumping, source reduction, litter illegal dumping and community collection events, source reduction and recycling. Source reduction and recycling are solid waste diversion projects, such as the funding of a baler so that you can do cardboard baling at your recycling facility. Purchase of a forklift to be able to move recyclables around on your recycling facility. School playground equipment made out of recyclable materials would be an example of a source reduction and recycling. You can do local solid waste management plan. If you do one of those, look to our administrative procedures to see the requirements placed upon those plans. The TCEQ will have to approve your plan and may rewrite it for you. They rewrote our plan when we submitted it. We put a lot of time into our plan, and it didn't turn out to look at all like what we thought it was going to. But we did finally meet the eye of the needle, and this camel got through it. So it is possible. All right. Municipal solid waste entities or facilities eligible for funding. These are small tier notice of intent level facilities. Citizens collection station, a transfer station, a recycling facility. These are eligible, but your larger permitted facilities are not eligible. A municipal solid waste landfill is not eligible. You cannot purchase land to have it designated as a solid waste activity and then get into the solid waste business yourself. Household hazardous waste management. That includes permanent facilities, if you wish to consider one, as well as the one-time collection events. Technical studies, if you wish to entertain, yeah, Mike, I feel for you. Mike just let us know that he's getting hammered by storms up in Williamson County, and he keeps losing connectivity. We just got to move on. He's going to have to check in and view the rest of this later if he can't get back online. Another technical studies would be how can your community increase your recycling rate? And typical technical study, I haven't seen a single one done for any less than $25,000. And they range all the way up to $150,000 for a full waste management plan. There goes the thunder here. If I disappear, it's just because the electricity's gone off, everybody. And we'll move on. Eligible entities. Oops, I went too far. I apologize. Here we go. I might have to do it this way. Eligible entities listed here. We've gone over these before. The eligible projects, what we've been discussing. And underneath this, there's going to be an explanatory write-up about each of the eligible project categories. What is a local enforcement project? What are the requirements of a local enforcement project? The number one thing to note here is that your agency must be in compliance with Texas Occupations Code, Title 10, Chapter 1701, if you are a law enforcement agency and you are pursuing grant funding. And what that basically means is that all of your reporting must be up to date for cases, both juvenile and adult, reporting within the 90th percentile. You cannot be what's the word for it? Sanctuary law enforcement agency. You must cooperate with the state of Texas and Governor Abbott and the in local enforcement. I'm sorry, the immigration officials. You must share your information if asked, so on and so forth. All right. Litter illegal dumping, cleanup, and community collection events. TCQ does like to fund community collection events, and they like to fund litter or illegal dumping cleanup. However, the litter illegal dumping cleanup must be done in a manner that is has oversight. You can't just put a dumpster in the middle of a field and walk away from it and tell people it's there and to go fill it up. You have to have that dumpster supervised to ensure that no hazardous waste or industrial or commercial waste get put inside that roll off. These monies are for municipal solid waste only. Yes to HHW. That's it. It has that household exemption. You can purchase trash receptacles to be placed in public areas. Okay. The materials should be source separated and as clean as possible. If you get contamination, that entire dumpster is going to go to the landfill. If they look inside of it and they see that somebody has thrown a bag of household garbage into your green waste dumpster, for example, or your metal waste dumpster, you are highly encouraged to source separate your collection events where you have one dumpster for metals that can be recycled, and then you have 5 to 15 dumpsters for municipal solid waste. These all must be supervised activities to ensure that nothing goes in the dumpster that is not allowed. Some of you do a very good job of this. Others could use some training. But here it has an exclusion. The cost for cleanup of hazardous waste or class 1 non-hazardous waste that may be, you got to get a waiver before you can clean that up. You can't spend any of these monies on anything to clean up class 2 or class 3 non-hazardous waste. Source reduction and recycling. Examples here, playground materials, chipped crumb rubber to replace or to be placed on playgrounds, on athletic fields and things of the nature. AstroTurf for the football field. Local solid waste management plans must meet subchapter O. Municipal solid waste eligible facilities eligible. As I stated before, notification tier, composting, liquid waste transfer if there's small liquid waste, or registration tier for such things as used oil collection. One of the first things this program funded in its history was the great big 50-gallon used oil recycling containers. The program purchased right at 254, and there was one provided to each county in the state of Texas with these monies. A lot of those are still out there, and you might need to go and look at the used oil receptacle and ensure that it is still containing the used oil and that it isn't leaking or something of the nature. Those were plastic when they were originally purchased. And as we all know, plastic does break down over time. So it might be time to replace a used oil collection container. If you don't have a used oil collection container at each of your facility yards, you might entertain doing that, giving the citizens a responsible place to take their used oil. Anybody that is an oil lube company will accept your used oil. They get paid for it. And if you negotiate in your collection event with a used oil vendor, they may pay you to participate in your collection event as well. Household hazardous waste. Again, you're going to need to look at the 335 rules and make sure you are compliant with the TCQ's rules and regulations. Technical studies, such as the development of disaster debris management plans, the development of a solid waste management plan, something of that nature. Education and training projects. If your ISD does not have recycling, you might consider putting in for a recycling program for the school district. This program will pay for the infrastructure. This program would pay, for example, the training of teachers to go and be master composters, to bring composting back to the campus, to teach the kids and get them involved in food waste diversion and composting. And then after that, logically, gardening, 4-H programs, so on and so forth. The grant amounts that we have available this year, $10,000 minimum, $30,000 maximum. We have $274,000 available, and we're looking for about 10 to 20 grants. So please submit more than one grant application if you have the need. If each of you online submit just one grant application, I'm going to fall short of this 10 to 20, and I'm going to have extra money left over. That means if you had submitted a secondary application, it probably would have gotten funded. So if Caldwell County chooses to have more than one collection event, you make scrap tires your primary priority for funding, and you submit a secondary application for a community collection event in the county someplace where you have an illegal dumping problem, something of that nature, where you have a lot of public nuisance issues. You send local enforcement out to knock on doors, let them know that there's going to be a free collection event and that they can clean up their property and take advantage of that. And then put the fear of God into them that local enforcement might be back afterwards to fine them for having a public nuisance on their property if they don't participate. I just used Caldwell County as an example. This can be done in other areas as well. All right. Match requirement, 10% match. That's not a lot of money, but it does show a commitment on the part of the local government and the community. If you propose greater than 10%, it's not necessary. It may not get you additional points. Then again, it may. But for example, if Williamson County wanted to have a local enforcement vehicle and they had $50,000 they could put towards it, and they're going to come and ask CAPCOG for $30,000. Well, they're more than 100% on their match commitment, and that may or may not get them additional points. We can't guarantee that. A multi-weekend collection event in which no collection is conducted in the intervening days should be broken out into 2 separate applications. Okay? If you're going to have your dumpsters out there for 2 whole weeks, well, and you're going to be open on the weekend, all day Saturday the 6th, and then again all day Saturday the 13th, that's actually 2 events, please. Eligible expenses. These are the budget categories that TCEQ lists. Yes, personnel and salaries are an eligible expense. We don't want to pay them. I'll tell you that up front. We don't want to pay them, but it is an eligible expense. If you need a local enforcement officer, you can ask for up to $30,000 of his salary to help supplement and provide seed money for a new code enforcement officer. Travel is an eligible expense. If you wanted to send 2 teachers from each of your area schools to training to help them be licensed or certified as master composters, you can do that. If you want to send 1 county official or 1 county employee to some advanced solid waste diversion training, you can do that as well. Supplies, including freight, are anything less than $5,000. But do keep in mind TCEQ's definition of equipment, over $1,000. So if you purchase a stapler that's $1,001, that's a piece of equipment to the TCEQ. It's not a supply or even a controlled asset. It becomes a piece of equipment. Paper, pencils, staplers. Okay, equipment, construction. If you're doing a construction project, we're going to do our best to fund you across 2 years, not 1, but 2 years. Because contractual projects, construction projects take a longer period of time. All right, contractual projects. If Austin Independent School District wanted to erect illegal dumping prevention signs, the signs are free, but they need to have money to pay for the poles and the braces and the brackets, and then for somebody to go and dig a hole, put cement, and to erect them. They can include that all in a contract, say $100 a sign for a contractor to go and erect signs at each of their campuses. That would be a contractual expense. Other expenses, anything that doesn't fit in the above, and do look for the restrictions set in UGMs, excuse me, not UGMs, Texas Grant Management Standards. And make sure you're not asking for something that is an ineligible expense, such as porta potties, breakfast, lunch, water, ice. Much as we know we need those to survive out there in the heat on those collection events, TCEQ will not fund those. Those are restricted items under the Texas Grant Management Standards. Federal funds are a little bit more allowable, but state funds are pretty tight on that sort of a thing. Types of expenses that may be appropriate under each category. Make sure you look to this as well, okay? protective gear and supplies, fencing, barriers, signage, under the legal dumping cleanup. If you're going to be doing this on private property, you have to have right of access, right of way, hold harmless agreements, source reduction and recycling, examples, chippers, balers, training, outreach and education materials, public service announcements, a billboard, solid waste management plans, citizens collection stations that are small, registered, household hazardous waste management, technical studies. All right. If you are doing a project that has the potential to promote local government over private industry, that is not allowed. In accordance with Health and Safety Code, a project or service funded under this program must promote cooperation between public and private entities and may not be otherwise readily available to create a competitive advantage over a private industry that provides recycling or solid waste services. To ensure this does not occur, all projects other than local enforcement must contact the local solid waste service providers that provide that service in your area and inform them of your intent to submit an application. You need to document who you spoke with, when you spoke with them, and what their response was. You're going to want the name, telephone number, and again, what their response was. If there were concerns raised, we want to know about it. Private industry will have an opportunity to view these applications and contest them. Example of applications that have been contested in the past, maintenance and right-of-way maintenance contracts. Local government was wanting to purchase a chipper shredder so they could do their own right-of-way maintenance. And they had a contract with a contractor that did right-of-way maintenance for them. That contractor stepped up and contested the application, and we were not able to fund their program. They were forced to contract for those services. I can't tell you if the contractor continued to get the contract, but they did step forward and contest it. All right. You are encouraged to meet directly with the private service provider to resolve any of those concerns. This is the workshop. Thank you for participating. We'll have a question and answer document up this Friday. And it'll answer routine questions that we have been asked in the past. If you ask me a question, I'll add it to my question and answer sheet, and it'll be updated once a week. Application checklist, things that you need to have. Right there, helpful information. Submission instructions. Note, I am Ken May. You submit your applications to Andrew Hoeksema. Okay, Andrew is our Deputy Executive Director. You can CC Charles Simone, who is the director of our regional services. He is my supervisor. And you can include myself. Should you make a mistake and send it to me, of course, I'm going to forward it on to Andrew for you, and I'll CC you and say shame, shame, and we all move forward. If you would like to speak with Andrew about the program, the changes that we made this biennium, whether you like them or you don't, you're welcome to pick up the phone and call Andrew Hoeksema. You can bring that to my attention. You can also bring it to Charles Simone's application. Note the spelling of Charles' name. It's Simone, as in he's from Southern Louisiana, He's not a Simon from the Northeast, okay? He's a Simone. Amendments and errors in the application. I'm available to peer review your applications before you submit them. As long as you ask that of me prior to, that date was the 6th of November. Up until 4 p.m. on Friday, November 10th, you are allowed to correct any errors that you had in your application when you submitted it. At that 4 o'clock witching hour, November 10th, that is the close of the timeline. If you submit anything after that date and time, we cannot guarantee it will be accepted. All right. CAPCOG will rely on the applicant's representation as to the minimum amount of funding acceptable and determining whether to consider awarding partial funding to a project. That makes reference to the need for these projects to be scalable and for somebody to be here to present to the SWAC on December 8th that has the ability to amend the ask. Private industry review, we go into that a little bit more. Initial screening by the CAPCOG and the SWAC. How we're going to prioritize your grant applications. And based on the number of applications, we're going to fund primary, then secondary, then tertiary, on down the line till we run out of money. Private industry will have opportunity to look at the applications and review them, and the SWAC scoring guidelines and instructions. This is the criteria you're going to be scored and ranked under. And then there's an explanation of each of the criteria here in the RFA. Do read these and write your presentation or your grant application to answer these questions. You'll get much better scoring results out of the Solid Waste Advisory Committee than otherwise. And it does cover each of those. Okay. We tell you a little bit more about how we're going to determine who gets funded when. We tell you that you must score at least 70 points to be moved to a contingency list if you aren't funded. Executive committee approval, we've talked about these things. Some of this is a repeat. TCQ's report review, reporting requirements, and then special requirements for equipment and construction. Sorry, I took a little bit too long on that, but we still got time to look at the application document itself. It's different this year. All you're going to have to do, if I can get mine to cooperate here, is go in City of America. Excuse me, you got to be able to type America. All right. Entity name, printed name, or project name. This is going to be a school recycling. This is being submitted by a municipality on an email address for the responsible official on the contract, not necessarily your mayor, your county judge. Who has the mayor or the county judge assigned as the primary point of contact for this contract? Well, let's say Lisa Schlegeter. There we go. We'd put Lisa Schlegeter in there. The name, title, email address, phone number, entity address, if you have a website, so on and so forth. Tell me which project category you're funding under. One application per project, so you're only doing one of these items. If you're not sure which one your project fits within, give me a telephone call. But do not say we're going to do a litter illegal dumping and we're going to include recycling of metals in that. So it's also source reduction, and we're going to do it as a BOPATE also. So it's also HHW. That's not going to get you any more points. What it's going to get is phone calls saying, which one? Define one, please. Okay. Does your project involve construction? Yes, no. Funding request, the total amount you're asking for, say $30,000. All right. Total project cost $30,000. You're asking CAPCOG for $27,000. Your proposed match is $3,000. Your proposed match, the percentage of your proposed match is 10%. The minimum acceptable that you can do, you can realize and still do the project is 20,000, and you'll have to scale it down some. Maybe you don't include tires. Maybe you don't include oil or paint. You do a condensed BOPATE, something of that nature. You don't do as large an area. You don't do the entire county. You make it a municipal collection event only, or you pick a small community and you target that small community for cleanup. Project description. Provide a description, including an explanation of how the applicant will ensure it meets all the requirements, okay? Project description. Independent School District Recycling Program. We intend to purchase infrastructure to promote recycling on our school campuses. And we're going to send one teacher to compost camp to learn how to be a master composter and come back and get the kids involved in composting on site. And eventually, a couple years down the road, we will have gardens and we will grow food for the kids to be served during lunches, something of that nature. Project timeline. All projects have to have milestones, okay? This is days from the receipt of the notice to proceed, okay? Within, you get notice to proceed, and you have to identify solid waste vendor or your CCE, all right? And you're going to say, okay, it's going to take me 10 days to do this. If you have to go out for bid, you better give yourself more than 10 days. But I'm just saying, if your policies and procedures allow you to, for example, utilize the vendor that you already have on contract for services, if waste, I'm trying to come up with a name, Waste Configurations is the vendor that you have on contract for the next 10 years to provide solid waste services for your municipality. You need to check that contract to see if you're obligated to use them for special collection events. You might be. Then you don't have to go out for bid. You can use the contract because you're already under contract. You're contractually obligated to use them. TCQ understands that thing. The next thing on your list would be to solicit a date. Develop outreach and education materials. Solicit volunteers. Advertise for the event. Stage the event. Get your vendor to bring the roll-offs and stage them. Date of the event. Follow-up reporting, submit for reimbursement. going to take 30 to 90 days for you to get the information out of your vendor for how much waste was collected. Allow that in your timeline. Submit for reimbursement should be possibly the second to the last item you have here, and then track and report. You have to track and report to us the results of your event. That's an example timeline. Your project budget. If you're doing contractual and your event is going to cost $40,000, you're asking us for $30,000 to help cover that. I would much rather see $30,000 listed under contractual than asking me to pay for all of the supplies necessary to do an RFA, to advertise, public service announcements and whatnot. Your community can pay for all that stuff. Submit, it's much easier for me just to see one invoice that's marked paid for waste conceptions to come in and host the event and go away. And I will want to reimburse that larger dollar amount than to go through all the other paperwork that I need to, such as paying for personnel, salaries, all of the costs of outreach and education. Yes, those are eligible expenses, but come audit time, being the one that has to do the auditing, it's going to be much simpler if I have one receipt and you get one payment. Budget details, these are the standard budget categories, and you have a brief description. What's the overview? What is personnel costs going to cover? What are travel costs going to cover? What supplies are you looking to purchase? Why? Which equipment do you need to purchase? Where is it going to be utilized? Physical address or where it's going to be stored. If you're constructing a facility, who's going to construct it? That sort of thing. Contractual, who's going to be your contractor and what are they going to be contracted to do? Anything that doesn't fit in the boxes above, other, and then indirect and or fringe rates. Okay. The resolution requirement. Tell us if a resolution is required. I'm going over by just probably a couple minutes, y'all. Please bear with me. If you have a requirement that you must submit a resolution, let us know about it. And here we tell you that you have a later date to get that to us than the date of the RFA. Certifications and assurances. All right. The person signing page 1 makes the following certifications and assurances. They have the authority to submit the application. They've done the private industry notification requirements. They're compliant with solid waste fee payments if applicable. They have not been debarred from state contracts. They are a certified enforcement program compliant with Occupation Code 1701. So on, so forth. These are the self-assurances that you're making, that you're compliant with disabilities, that you're compliant with the Single Audit Act, so on and so forth. Then you submit this application. You know, I clicked up, there we go. You submit this application to Mr. Andrew Hoeksema by 4 p.m. Monday, November 13th. We've tried to make the application simpler. We've added 10% match requirement. We've added a $10,000 minimum, and we've added a $30,000 ceiling. These are new. Please let us know what you think about these things. If you have a representative on the Solid Waste Advisory Committee, please let them know if you're in favor of these things or you're not. Do these things get in the way of you implementing your programs? Are they helpful? Do you think that we should go further? Change is difficult. I was taught to ingratiate change. It's not always easy to ingratiate change, however. And if we've gone too far in the wrong direction, somebody needs to speak up and let us know about it. With that, do I have any questions from the peanut gallery?
Ken, this is Dennis. I've got a question. You said we're now required to have event insurance. Is that two-part question? Where do I get that type of insurance? And is that an item that we include in our, is that reimbursable in this grant?
It is reimbursable in the grant. You would have to contact your insurance provider, whoever your county has insurance through.
Okay.
That's my best answer. I do know that if you called Commissioner Raschke, for example, out in Llano County, she has event insurance for each of her events. Not everybody has historically. TCEQ is now making it a requirement, but they're allowing it to be a reimbursable.
Okay. Then a clarification on the match. It's 10%. Is it 10% of the total cost of the project or 10% of what I'm going to ask you for funding?
It's 10% of what you're going to ask me for.
Okay. Okay. For example, I know on the rental of the trucks from Reliable Tribe, the Burnett folks, it's for 4 trucks is $12,800. That's I need that, but then I'm going to be providing some food and refreshments and a porta potty rental. I've got donors that are going to pick that up, but I have to include that in my total project cost, right?
Yes, sir, you do.
But then I'm going to ask you only for the 12,800, let's say, for the truck rentals.
Yes, sir.
And the insurance. Okay.
That'd be $1,280 requirement for the match.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
On the insurance, do you know the limits of liability or what are going to be the requirements?
Minimal. You're just covering the event in the advent that in the instance that someone gets hurt or a piece of equipment tumps over and gets destroyed. I think Llano County pays $500, right at $580 per event. It covers staff, volunteers, and equipment.
When you say minimal, what is minimal?
Liability only.
Liability only?
And Ken, you asked about, or you stated contractual. We have a Keep Wimberley Beautiful here. It's off of the Keep Texas Beautiful. They do a lot of our collections already. We'd have a couple throughout the city. Would I count their volunteer time as well? You said, I know earlier you said $20 to $24 a person. So say there's 10 of them out there. I'm not getting reimbursed for that. That's in kind, but I have to put that in my project total too, like Dennis just asked.
Yes, we want to know the total cost of the project, the amount of in-kind and proposed match, and TCQ asks that we track and report that.
Okay. And then as far as like, if we wanted to get some roll-offs, is it best to use the company we already contract with? So we can maybe contact them, ask them how much it would cost for 6 large roll-offs. They give us a quote on that. We can kind of incorporate that into our application.
Yes, they will probably give you a better rate than somebody you don't have on contract, and you need to review your contract with them. You might be obligated to use them for that service for a one-time collection event.
Okay. We'll research that. Thank you.
Certainly. I'm glad to hear Wimberley's excited about solid waste and diversion and all that. That's a good thing.
Absolutely.
And we now what are y'all going to try and do this year? Read more. What are y'all going to do?
We want to do the hazardous waste and the tires and electronic. That's something that we saw when we did the bulky cleanup these past 2 years. We had to turn a lot of electronics away or tires. So I think
Okay.
we're going to try that one this year. I did have a question about the antifreeze. Do you have a list of vendors that you said that can pay us back for some of that?
I do. Email me and I will get you the vendors that I've seen contracted for other local projects.
Okay, thank you. Those are all my questions.
Lisa?
Yes, I was just wondering, so we have to contact private vendors to make sure that that's part of this. Are you familiar with private vendors who would run hazardous waste events that we would need to contact and let know that we are applying for this grant?
Yes, we do. There's for HHW, there's a
Mhm.
limited number of vendors in Central Texas. I think there's only 3. And we'd be happy to give you points of contacts for each of those.
That would be great. So I'll just email you and ask you that.
Yes.
And also I want the other vendors that she mentioned who, might pay us actually for
Right,
some of the
right.
products. That would be great.
And then Ken, one other thing, you said something about HHW versus like, I don't know, the acronym, you said BOPET or something. I know it's batteries, oils, paint,
Yes.
electronics. Do we have to get that approved through the TCEQ?
BOPATE is excluded from HHW. So no, BOPATE does not have to get TCEQ authorization. Household hazardous waste products do.
So which one would I select on like project category would that fall under? I
Oh,
guess
that would, I'm sorry, yeah, that would, BOPATE is still classified as a community collection event. And we report BOPATE to the TCEQ under the HHW project category.
Gotcha. So I would still do it as the litter and illegal dumping cleanup or community collection event.
It would be a community collection event, most accurately. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right, thank you. Last question.
Ken, this is Dennis. I got another question. In our tire collection events, we've always used reliable tire disposal out of Burnett. Are there other tire disposal vendors in our area that we need to solicit a bid from?
You can talk to Liberty Tire. And there's possibility that you might locate another tire vendor that we're not aware of.
Yeah.
There's Eagle, but I think that they only operate in North Texas.
Oh, okay.
So I think there's really only 2 vendors for you.
Yeah.
Unless Texas Disposal System, they could do a tire project as well, because they have a scrap tire processing a permit with TCQ.
Okay. All right. Where's Liberty? Where's that located?
Liberty is a national company.
Oh, okay.
You'll have to Google them.
Okay.
They
All right.
have what's called LR puts. They have pits in West Texas that they have authorization to fill with crumb scrap tire. They're like old gravel mining pits. That's
Okay.
called a land reclamation placing used tires.
Okay.
LR put.
Yeah. Well, I've already got a bid from Reliable Tire, because I needed some kind of a ballpark figure of what it's going to cost to do that. I guess I need to contact Liberty and maybe Texas Disposal as well.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
You have to, with tires, you're gonna have to do your best just to, those are the only 3 that I'm aware of
Okay.
that have the permit from the TCQ to be allowed to transport those tires and then process them appropriately.
Okay. Thank you.
Lisa, I think your brain working. What? Any good questions? Come on, Tammy, Anna. Anything else? You're helping others that are going to be viewing this later on down the road as well by asking these questions. You might be asking the same question they're asking.
Well, this Dennis, I've got another question. When will you make the decision about which projects will be funded this year versus next year, or 24 versus 25?
Right. We will do that after the SWAC has scored and ranked the applications, and after we have gotten authorization and approval from the TCQ.
Okay.
The way we're going to do that is based upon the score that you receive from the SWAC. The higher the score, the more likely you are to be able to choose which fiscal year you wish to operate under. If you are a construction project, you will probably be elevated to the first year because we're going to want to give you that full 2 years of funding.
Okay.
Otherwise, it's based upon the score. We give priority to the highest scored applications to tell us when they want to be funded, and we fit the rest in to the best of our ability. We
Okay.
can only commit to $137,000 per fiscal year.
Okay.
And just to confirm, we can send in more than one application. So in other words, we can send an application for BOPATE and we can send another one for bulky cleanup.
Yes, ma'am. You can, there's no limit to the number of applications you can submit. You just have to tell us which application is going to be your priority application, and then which application will be your second, and then which one will be your third, and then which one will be your fourth or your fifth choice. And we will fund your priority first. Funding remains, we will go back around and we will do all the secondary projects. If funding still remains, we'll do the tertiary projects. If funding still remains, we'll do the level 4 projects. And if funding still remains, we'll do the level 5 projects, on and on ad nauseum until all of the applications have been addressed.
One more thing, circling back to the insurance. So if we collaborate, let's just say with Travis County again, do we both have to get an event insurance, or just will it be sufficient for the city to get one?
It would be sufficient for the city. If you're going to host an event with Travis County, they already have insurance or event insurance, I believe, and you may just want to piggyback on theirs.
Okay, so ask. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. It has to just be the event insurance, and you know, a large municipality or a large local government probably already has special event insurance clauses and things of that nature. And in Austin, where every weekend's an event,
Yes.
you know, the insurance people are making out.
Okay.
That's all I have, Ken. I need to go. Thanks for the information.
Thank you for being here, all of y'all. I appreciate you very much. I'll expect to hear from you. And again, get started sooner than later. If you have questions, bring them to my attention, and we can talk confidentially about any other projects you might want to consider or whatnot. Don't sit on this. Please get started. And I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
And all right. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much for
Thanks,
participating.
Ken.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Everybody, thank you.
Bye-bye, everyone. Okay, I'm going to stop recording now. Bye-bye. Thank you all. God bless. Bye-bye.